Trading in fantasy football is essential. We all know you don't win your league at your draft, but you certainly can lose it. But what happens when you have a bad draft? What happens when your team is struggling and you have to make some moves? Well, in this video, don't worry, I'm going to be going over the 7 habits to make you an effective trader in fantasy football. This is inspired from the great Matthew Berry, the GOAT himself. It's based off the classic book, The 7 Habits of Effective People by Stephen Covey. So get ready, we're going to gear up and I'm going to get ready to go over the 7 habits to make you a more effective fantasy football trader. We're going to get right into it. So the first habit to be an effective fantasy football player is this. Habit number 1, effective traders figure out what they need and what they already have. Before you can begin any trade, it is important to see where your weaknesses are at and what exactly you need to turn those weaknesses into strengths. You also want to be able to see if you have any depth so that way you can utilize that depth to leverage a trade. What if you are in a situation where you don't have depth because of injuries, or maybe you just didn't invest in a particular position enough to be able to swindle a trade? Well, here's what you do. You actually now have to create depth. How do you create depth? Well, say for instance, you are short at running back and short at wide receiver, and you don't have much to really offer to another team. However, say you have a very strong piece at quarterback or even tight end, and that piece alone can get you 2 solid pieces. So for example, if you're trading an elite quarterback, we'll just say like a Patrick Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson, can you maybe trade Lamar Jackson or even Patrick Mahomes to get you a wide receiver 2 as well as a running back 2? So in that way, you now have some deeper assets that you can utilize for the season. And lastly, to be effective within this habit, you have to look at all available players, not just on other teams, but also the waiver wire. That way you can properly approach each team that you're thinking about making a trade with. For example, if you have a strong quarterback, you're not going to look to trade that quarterback to a team that already has an elite quarterback on their roster. Habit number 2, they do a deep dive of every team's roster. It's not just about looking for trade partners for the sake of looking for one. You have to make sure that you find the right team with the right assets to help you make a move to better your roster. We'll say, for example, that you got off to a really slow start to your season and you have an injured player that is a really strong asset. But the thing is, you can't really afford to wait for that player to get healthy. You need to make a move right now. So you're going to look for a team that probably could afford to wait for that player to get healthy. So we'll just say that your quarterback got hurt in the beginning of the season and you have to make a move to make a trade right now to improve your roster. Consider moving that injured player to a team that is 4-1 or maybe is up to a good start that could afford to take on that player. So in that way you can get some depth right away to help you out. And lastly, to be effective within this habit, you have to understand what the objective is. Is it to fill a need because of an injury, or is this more of a long game situation? It's crucial to properly understand what your objective is before you go into your trade. Habit number 3, they know how to market their players. The best way to market your players, number 1, don't just send cold offers. More likely than not, those will be declined, and it is not a good look for the player that you're actually looking to move. Secondly, don't declare a player is on the trading block in your league chat, or don't even put them on the trading block within your app. It actually devalues that player actually even more. Instead of putting a player on the trade block, say something like this. Hey guys, I hate to do this, but my team has been hit with the injury bug at wide receiver. I have to do something. We'll just say my running back 1 is now available. Make your best offer. This now sounds so much better because it shows some kind of reluctance because you're trying to move a very valuable piece to get something solid back in return. And then here's a little pro tip for you as well. If you're looking to trade a specific player, make sure the player that you're making available is in your starting lineup. This actually creates a psychological edge to the person that you're looking to trade with, that that person is of value. When you see a particular player that you're looking to trade for on the bench, you actually naturally value them less because they're not in the starting lineup. Habit number 4, they actually talk with the trade partners. With habit number 3, I told you don't send cold offers, was because you have to make sure you do habit number 4, which is actually begin a conversation. And that conversation can be done via text, social media, direct messaging, whatever it is, but have a one-on-one conversation with that person about the potential trade that you're looking to make. Once you have the conversation going, work your way up to the heavy hitters. Don't just say you want to go for one of the top dogs right away. And also, when it comes to conversing during these negotiations, don't be that person that ignores the offers. Just say no. It's okay to say no, but don't leave an offer unread. Now, to be really effective within this habit, you have to do this. Be sure to also share your desired timeline on when you're looking to complete this trade, and also share if this conversation is exclusive to this person specifically or other members of the league. Habit number 5, they negotiate by listening and being patient. This probably is the most important habit, and here's why. Find out what the other person needs to be able to make this trade happen. Too many times people try to get the big dog in the trade and don't really consider what is it going to take for that person to give that player up. Instead, don't focus on just sending 3 or 4 pieces to get that one big dog. Really be intentional about what your other team may need to be able to make this trade happen. And the best way to find out is by simply asking, hey, what do you need? And once you ask that question, really listen, like genuinely listen to what that player is saying. Because at the end of the day, this will allow you to do 2 things. Number 1, it'll get you to understand how they value particular players. And secondly, this actually puts them now in a position to subconsciously devalue some players on their team. So you may value wide receivers a little bit more than they do, and that actually may make it easier for you to identify what you can actually give up to get certain players. And for this habit to be effective, you don't want to treat the person like they're stupid. What I mean by this is don't make stats up. Don't come up with some fake news so that way you can get this player to trade a specific player for you. Really be honest and be upfront about certain things, and really have a fair, candid conversation about what you're looking to get to be able to make a trade happen. And the last thing too, to make this habit work, just know this. Every single player is tradable. There's no way that you can say this person is untouchable. No, because if, say for example, I want to offer you 2 number 1 wide receivers for your running back number 1 or 2, you're going to take it. The right player can be traded for the right deal. Always know that. Habit number 6, they understand all the angles of the trade, the good, the bad, and the other side. It's very easy to focus on the upside of a trade, but you also have to analyze the downside. You don't have to quote unquote win the trade to find the trade of value. So what I mean by this is, say for example, you're in a 10-team league and you have a top 10 quarterback sitting on your bench because you already have a solid one already, but you trade that top 10 quarterback and another piece for another running back number 1 or a wide receiver 1. Someone face value can say, wow, you really gave up a lot for that player. When in reality, you just improved the area that you were a little bit low on by trading a piece that you didn't really need. We all like what could potentially go well with the trade, but you also got to analyze the floor and what could actually hinder your team if this trade goes through. And the last thing here, a deal is done once the deal is done. So say for example, if you send a text message and you're having a back and forth with somebody and you agree that, hey, cool, we're gonna go with this trade. Don't get cold feet after you agree. Have your word really mean something. If there's anything that you have to keep of value, is your word. It really does hinder the trade experience for somebody, and it actually causes you to potentially lose trust if you fall back on a trade. And habit number 7 is quite simply this. Don't gloat, don't veto, and don't be afraid to walk away from a negotiation. Don't gloat, even if you for sure got the best end of the trade. Really communicate, hey, you know what, this was a fair trade, because you never know what can happen. Say, for example, week 2, you trade for the consensus number 1 running back, and you trade him away for a quarterback that you didn't even need, and everyone thinks, oh, this was a bad trade, but guess what happens? The running back that you traded for is out for the season, and the quarterback that you traded away ends up being a top 10 quarterback. You actually ended up losing that trade. So the thing is, don't gloat. You never know what could happen. Also, don't veto. I mean, unless there's clear collusion, there should never be vetoing for any trade. I mean, this is probably the most passionate you'll ever see me, because I don't believe in vetoing. If 2 parties agree, they agree to it. Let whatever comes out of it, let it pan out. Because there are no guarantees in fantasy football. Injuries could take place. A player can all of a sudden lose favor with the coaching staff and not see the playing field at all. We never know what can happen. There should never be any vetoing whatsoever. And the last part, sometimes the best trades are the ones that are never done. So if you're in a pinch, don't feel forced to make a trade. It's okay to walk away, reevaluate. Don't feel pressure. As the old adage says, cooler heads always prevail. So if you're backed up in a wall and you're seeing that the negotiation isn't going the way that you're going, don't make a trade just for the sake of making a trade. Really think of the longevity and the health of your team first before really pulling the trigger. Well, hey guys, that's it. That's the 7 habits of highly effective traders within fantasy football. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to link the entire article from Matthew Berry in the description below. Shout out to the GOAT himself. If you got value from this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Be sure to follow me on all social media platforms, and be sure to check me out on TikTok as well as Discord. And if you're looking for more ways to connect, all that information will be found in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Hope you guys got value. As always, keep it 100.